不散。
习近平让全世界为中国的错误买单。纽约时报 Brad Setzer， 特朗普总统随时准备使用胁迫性关税，这对战后经济和政治秩序构成了深远的威胁，使全球商业充满不可预测性，令贸易伙伴难以应对，企业更是几乎无法制定计划。但它不是世界经济面临的唯一威胁，甚至可能不是最大的威胁。最大的威胁可能来自中国国家主席习近平，他更具战略性、更为精心策划的产业和经济政策，正在从根本上扭曲和损害全球贸易。贸易通常是指进口和出口的结合，但习近平已颠覆了这个理念，彻底改变了中国与世界其他国家的贸易互动，至少在制成品方面是这样。在过去6年里，中国的制成品进口平均每年只增长了150亿美元。如果把通货膨胀考虑进来，这等于基本上没有变化。另一方面，中国制成品出口的增长率是进口增长率的10倍以上，平均每年增长逾1500亿美元。就制成品而言，中国与其他国家的贸易几乎是单向的。中国现在主导着全球制造业，中国的贸易顺差远高于德国和日本在战后出口鼎盛时期的最高贸易顺差。世界各国都从中国购买廉价产品，但他们无法向中国出售同样多的产品。这些国家的出口行业正在受到伤害，比如德国，而且不再雇佣新员工。习近平为什么要这样做？他想弥补中国政府对国内经济的管理不善。问题的根源可追溯到2008年的全球金融危机。那场危机导致中国的出口下降，政府本可以实施支持家庭收入的政策，增强中国消费者购买本国产品的能力，来抵消出口下降的影响。它还可以削减为维持国家财政而对低薪工人和国内消费征收的高额税收。那本会帮助中国过渡到更可持续的经济模式，让经济在工业、贸易、投资、消费方面保持平衡。然而，中国领导人选择的做法是用该国规模庞大的家庭储蓄掀起了一场巨大的投资热潮，新建了桥梁、公路，尤其是修建了大量新公寓。虽然所有这些建设和相关的经济活动使中国在增长方面对出口的依赖有所减少，但造成了房地产泡沫。习近平做出的反应是从2020年开始遏制房地产行业，他的做法引发了房地产因持续至今的深度萧条。习近平对新冠病毒大流行的反应也起了一定作用。为了缓解疫情给经济带来的冲击，世界各地的发达国家政府都为支持消费者花钱敞开了腰包。唯一一个没有拿出刺激经济、支持家庭消费的重大措施的主要经济体，就是疫情最早爆发的中国。习近平从意识形态的角度反对政府给老百姓发钱或采取任何带死有福利主义色彩的措施。他认为消费刺激与投资不同，不会产生持久的价值。因此，当美国和其他地区的消费者重新开始消费，包括购买从中国进口的商品时，中国得以借助其他国家的刺激方案恢复了经济，同时将所有资源投入到扩大制造业上，以弥补房地产行业提供不了的经济增长。换句话说，由于政府把赌注错误地压在房地产，长期以来未能加强中国家庭的支出，习近平正在让中国的贸易伙伴和竞争对手为此付出代价。中国确实进口大宗商品和自然资源，比如石油和铁矿石，以及自己尚未掌握制造技术的先进半导体。但中国在制造业和出口方面的主导地位不容小觑。以汽车为例，该行业在过去1个世纪里曾是许多工业化国家制造业的支柱。大约20年前，中国在汽车制造方面的地位还无足轻重。到2018年时，中国已具备年产4000万辆汽油动力车的能力，远远超过国内市场所需的2500万辆。那之后， 由于政府对电动汽车行业的巨额补贴，中国又增加了年产2000万辆电动汽车的产能，这一数字可能很快会上升到3000万辆。全球的汽车年需求量为9000万辆，中国有能力满足全球2/3的需求。这种模式在一个又一个行业中复制。中国在正常情况下生产全球1半以上的钢铁、1半以上的铝以及1半以上的船舶。在太阳能电池和电池等清洁技术领域，中国能生产数倍于全球需求的产品，并且有担忧认为，中国可能会在内存和汽车芯片领域复制这种成功。此外，中国通过补贴新工厂的建设和装备，部分弥补了由房地产崩盘引起的国内钢铁需求的下降。这些新工厂使用国内生产的钢铁，他们正在大量生产更多的制成品，向海外市场出口。总的来看，中国出口量的增长速度是全球贸易增长速度的3倍。这意味着中国的成功是以牺牲其他国家的制造商为直接代价的。这些制造商越来越无法竞争，他们面临着退出被中国瞄准的行业的压力。由于中国房地产市场继续低迷，这种模式没有改变的迹象。它指向一种未来的世界经济格局。中国对其他国家的工业产出没有需求，而其他国家却依赖中国制造的商品，从而易受中国政府的政治和经济压力的影响。
大家好，欢迎来到我们的亚洲大眼睛节目。今天我们要讨论的话题可不简单，外资持续撤离中国的现象引发了全球的广泛关注。根据最新数据，2024年中国的外商直接投资净流出达到了历史新高。这一趋势的背后涉及美中贸易战升级、营商环境恶化以及国安审查日益严格等多重因素。尽管中国政府推出了稳外资行动方案，尝试挽留外资，但在这些挑战面前，成效却难以乐观。根据中国国家外汇管理局的数据，2024年中国的资本和金融账户逆差高达4416亿美元，较前一年翻了一番，显示资金正在如潮水般流出。彭博社报道指出，外资撤离的情况在未来可能会进一步恶化，尤其是在贸易战再度升温的背景下。不仅如此，许多分析人士也指出，中国本土企业的崛起和政府政策的偏向，使得外资在中国市场的生存空间越来越狭窄。那么，外资撤离的背后到底隐藏住哪些深层次的原因？未来这一趋势将如何影响中国的经济发展？请大家继续收看详细内容。中国外商直接投资 FDI 的净流出在2024年达到了前所未有的高度。这一现象引起了全球的广泛关注，即便中国政府已经制定了稳外资行动方案，希望能挽留外资，但在美中贸易战的风波再起、营商环境恶化以及更严格的国家安全审查等多重不利因素影响下，外资重返中国的前景仍然黯淡无光。根据中国国家外汇管理局提供的最新统计数据，2024年第4季度，中国的资本和金融账户包括净误差与遗漏的逆差高达1807亿美元，全年逆差总额则增长到了4416亿美元，这一数值较2023年翻了2倍，显示出资金正如潮水般从中国外流。彭博社进一步报道指出，2024年中国 FDI 净流出达到1680亿美元，创下自1990年有记录以来的最高水平，而同期中国企业对外投资总额则达到1730亿美元，显示中国企业正加速将资金向境外转移。这种资本外流的趋势在美中贸易战重启后可能会进一步恶化。日本经济新闻则指出，去年中国 FDI 较2021年骤减99%，这反映出外资由于中国经济增长放缓及频繁的间谍行为查处等因素而加速撤离。然而，该报道对于具体的计算方式并未详细说明。面对外资撤离加剧，中国国务院上周一召开了常务会议，审议并通过了2025年稳外资行动方案，承诺要拿出更多务实管用举措稳存量，并强调外资企业在促进产业升级、就业和出口方面的重要作用。中国官方新华社的报道显示，2024年中国实际使用外资金额为8262 5亿元人民币，同比下降27.1%，而新成立的外资企业数量增至59080家，同比增长9.9%。然而，党报《人民日报》当天发表的评论文章却淡化了外资撤离问题，称部分外资企业因没有跟上中国市场变化而退出，但更多技术含量高的外资进来了。文章强调，自2021年以来，中国连续3年吸引超过1万亿元人民币外资，因而2024年的下降仍在正常范围之内。多位分析人士在接受美国精英采访时普遍认为，尽管中外媒体和中国官方因计算方式的差异导致数据有所出入，但外资正在扩大撤离中国这一趋势是可以确定的。治理科技大学国际贸易系副教授张宏远指出，自2021年以来，中国 FDI 几乎每年都以9%至11%的速度下滑。早在特朗普执政期间，美中贸易战已经促使部分外商开始供应链脱钩的行动。近年又因中国疫情解封后的经济转型不及预期、内需消费疲软以及俄乌战争导致的欧洲经济衰退等因素，进一步削弱了外资在华投资的意愿。张宏远表示，中共官方现在才在2025年采取一系列措施，希望重新吸引外商。关键因素在于准备应对特朗普2关税战争带来的经济衰退，以及外商资本的进一步流出。除了政策和经济环境的挑战，另一个挤压外资在中国市场生存空间的因素是中国本土企业的进口替代成就。澳大利亚蒙纳斯大学商学院教授史赫林指出，中国政府一贯的做法是学习外资带来的技术和管理知识，然后由本土企业替代外资。以电动车市场为例，中国车企快速占据领先地位后，此外，中国政府在贷款和政策上对本土企业的偏袒，也让外资感到在中国的发展步履维艰。美国中国商会的调查报告显示，32%的受访媒体表示在市场进入和公共采购方面受到不公平待遇。台湾学者张宏源指出，即便在消费性服务业中，外资企业仍可能受到不公平对待。例如，好莱坞电影在中国的处境往往不如国产影片。旅居美国的经济学者蔡胜坤则表示，中国政府希望吸引的外资主要集中在高科技领域，但监管环境的不确定性使外资望而却步，包括国安法规等政策的收紧，让外资在华经营如履薄冰。2024数据显示，2024年中国企业向海外投资1730亿美元，这一趋势可能意味着这些企业在为特朗普可能重启的关税战做准备。蔡胜坤指出，尤其是中低端产业早已转向东南亚、南美洲甚至非洲设厂，以规避美国的贸易制裁。然而，也有乐观看法认为，外资在华发展仍有机会。在台北的中华民国全国工业总会大陆处处长黄建群指出，尽管许多企业正调整供应链，但中国仍然是全球第2大经济体，市场容量庞大。部分外资企业仍然看好中国市场的长期潜力。他指出，在中国政府的政策红利引导下，许多企业并未舍弃中国内需市场。黄建群表示，尽管竞争对手变少，但这也为留在中国的企业创造了更多机会，并认为总体前景并不像外界形容的那么悲观。这一场关于外资撤离的争论仍在继续。随着国际经济形势的波动以及中国自身政策的调整，未来的局势如何演变，仍需继续观察。无论如何，中国面对的挑战和机遇同样巨大，如何在全球经济版图中重新定位自己，将是未来的重要课题。欢迎大家进入6度探索的辩论环节。我们从正反2个角度对本节目进行辩论，请出我们的辩论高手楚天舒、谢琪琪。
各位听众朋友们，外资撤离中国的现象确实引发了广泛关注，但我们必须承认，中国政府已经采取了积极的措施来稳定外资。尽管面临外部压力，如美中贸易战和全球经济放缓，中国市场的巨大容量和潜力仍然是外资无法忽视的。
哈哈，楚天舒，你这是在做梦吧？外资撤离的原因千丝万缕，不光是贸易战，还是因为中国的政策环境让外资感到不安全。国安法和市场歧视让外资如履薄冰，撤离是明智之选。
谢琪琪，你的担忧有些过度。要知道，中国已连续3年吸引超过1万亿元人民币的外资，这说明外资对中国市场仍有信心。即便有些企业的撤资，仍不乏有技术含量高的新外资进入，这是市场的自然选择。
楚天舒，你说的好听，但数据不会说谎。去年外资大幅减少99%，这可不是小数目。此外，中国企业加速向海外转移资金，外资撤离只是冰山一角。你说的新外资进入，恐怕是无奈之下的自我安慰吧？
谢琪琪，你别急着下结论。中国市场的韧性是经过多次危机考验的。历史上，外资也曾因为种种原因撤离，但中国总能吸引新的投资。市场容量和经济体量是外资无法忽视的，不是每个国家都能提供这么大的市场潜力。
楚天舒，你的乐观精神值得赞扬，但事实是，政策歧视、国安疑虑让外资企业望而却步。即便中国市场再大，没有公平的竞争环境和政策保障，外资迟早会用脚投票的。别忘了，世界上还有其他市场，比如东南亚，他们正虎视眈眈的等着吸引这些外资呢。
大家好，欢迎来到我们的亚洲大眼睛节目。今天我们要聊的话题可不简单。日本最近宣布了一项引人注目的政策变更，将在日台湾人的户籍标记从中国改为台湾。这不仅是对在日台湾人长期以来的诉求的回应，更是一个重要的身份认同的胜利。这项变动引发了中国的强烈反弹，外交部的发言人直接表示不满，并坚持一个中国的原则。然而，日本法相却强调，这是日本的内政判断，无需对外回应。这一政策的调整在中国社交媒体上引发热议，甚至有网友提议将冲绳的国籍标记为琉球，以示反制。对于在日的台湾人来说，这一变更意味着他们终于能够以自己的身份，而不是被迫贴上不属于自己的标签来认同自己。这是对国际社会对台湾身份认同逐渐重视的反应，但也有观点认为，日本此举只是玩弄词汇游戏，并不会实质改变中日关系。总的来说，这次日本的户籍标记调整不仅是对在日台湾人身份认同的重要肯定，也可能成为未来国际局势变化的一个指标。请大家继续收看详细内容。在日本一处阳光明媚的公园中，詹景东坐在长椅上，手中翻阅着一本旧杂志。他的思绪却飘向了不久前的一次重大改变。日本法务省宣布，自5月起调整户籍登记规则，允许在日台湾人将原本被标记为中国的国籍信息更改为台湾。对詹景东这样的在日台湾人来说，这不仅是身份认同的胜利，也是一场漫长抗争的终结。回忆起与日本太太结婚时的经历，詹景东不由得露出一丝无奈的微笑。在登记结婚的那一天，为了国籍标注问题，他曾与公所人员据理力争。我不想被写成中国，最后让步写成中华民国，但仍被改成中国。他解释道。如今詹景东终于可以证明为台湾人，这无疑是他迫不及待想要完成的心愿。然而，这一改变并非一帆风顺。中国外交部发言人郭家坤在例行记者会上表示不满，敦促日方恪守一个中国原则。而与此同时，日本法相铃木新佑则在记者会上坚决表示，日本内政上的判断无需对外回应。这一政策调整在中国社交媒体上引发轩然大波，有网友甚至建议对等反制，将冲绳居民的国籍标注为琉球。对于詹景东而言，尽管日本社会对国际事务关注度较低，但此次户籍规则调整是对在日台湾社群多年努力的肯定。他告诉美国之音，中国是一个想要剥夺台湾民主自由的政流，剥夺台湾民主自由的政权。如果我们同意被标记为中国人，也就意味着其他国家可能同意中国的立场。他坚信这一变动是国际社会对台湾立场变化的反应。旅居日本的台湾籍媒体人施旭浩也对此次政策变化感慨良多。他指出，这对台湾人的身份认同意义重大，因为他正式承认你是台湾人，而不是中国人。不过，施旭浩也注意到，日本政府在政策表述上保持了高度谨慎，户籍中的国籍与地区的表述仍留有一定弹性。他表示，日本用这样的弹性，既让台湾人可以填写自己想要的身份标志，又不至于踩到中国的底线。施旭浩还补充道，日本在户籍制度上的调整虽然不会直接改变外交政策，但已经释放出重要信号，这显示出日本政府对台湾民众身份认同的进一步认可。无论国际局势如何变化，这一改变对于在日台湾人来说也是极大的安慰。在学术界，日本秋田国际教养大学的陈佑化博士对此次调整的解读更为深邃。 他在接受美国之音采访时指出，此次日本修改户籍规则，象征着东京对台湾与中国政策的微妙转向。陈博士认为，证明的意义在于台湾人不用被强迫贴上不属于自己的标签，这个标签让许多在日台人对所谓的台日友好打上问号。他进一步解释到，日本的调整标志着东京开始明确划分台湾与中国，并向外界释放出台湾并不直接了当地属于中华人民共和国的一部分的信号。尽管中国外交部的回应只是一种例行公事，但陈博士相信这并不会直接影响中日台关系。因为美中竞争才是主导因素。作为美国的盟友，日本在未来仍将继续支持台湾。陈佑化还指出，日本此次调整户籍规则与国际社会对台湾态度的变化密切相关，特别是美国与日本，例如前美国国务卿庞佩奥已明确表示台湾不是中国的一部分，以及最近欧洲多国正要相继访问台湾，推动双边关系的发展。这些趋势显示，台湾的国际地位正在悄然变化，而日本的此次调整正是这一变化的延续。从东京的街头到学术研究的殿堂，这次政策调整中的层面引发了不同的反响。无论是对詹景东这样的普通在日台湾人，还是对学者和媒体人，这都是一个象征着身份认同和政治动荡的时刻。日本这次调整户籍标注的决定，不仅是对在日台湾人长期诉求的回应，也在国际舞台上为台湾的身份认同增加了新的注解。在这场全球瞩目的身份认同与政治博弈中，日本的另一抹鲜亮的色彩。欢迎大家进入六度探索的辩论环节，我们从正反两个角度对本节目进行辩论，请出我们的辩论高手楚天舒、谢七七。
日本修改户籍标注规则，让在日台湾人能登记为台湾身份，这对于台湾人的身份认同是一大进步。台湾人一直以来都希望能够以自己的身份被承认，而不是被笼统的归为中国。这种改变为在日台湾人提供了心理上的认同感，也显示出国际社会开始逐渐重视台湾的独立地位。
哎呀，这不过是日本的一个小动作罢了，根本无法改变国际社会对台湾地位的普遍认知。他没有正式承认台湾作为一个独立国家，只是换了个表述方式，避开了中国的敏感点。日本政府玩了一手擦边球，无非是安抚在日台湾人，同时不触怒中国，可是有什么实际意义呢？
虽然日本此举并未直接挑战一中政策，但其意义在于释放了一个信号，台湾在国际上的身份认同正发生变化。历史上，美国前国务卿蓬佩奥和多国政要访问台湾，都显示出对台湾的支持。这些国际举动逐渐累积，影响着各国对台湾立场的转变，而日本的户籍规则调整正是这种转变的一个节点。
哈哈，别高兴得太早。日本这么做本质上是为了国内政策的需要，根本不是为了国际政治上的站队。日本人自己对台海局势的关心度并不高，什么信号不信号的，只是给在日台湾人一个心理安慰。再说，国际上真正有影响力的国家依然尊重一中政策，美国也不敢过分越界。日本这样的小动作只是在玩弄词汇游戏，无法产生实质性的外交影响。
当然，日本的改变或许看似微小，但正是这些微小的改变积累起来，才可能导致更大的政策转向。就如同滚雪球效应，任何国际政策的变化都是从小细节开始。再说，日本是美国的盟友之一，作为亚洲的重要角色，它的政策动向对其他国家也具有参考价值。明治维新以来，日本一直在平衡国际关系中发挥智慧，这次也不例外。
日本那是聪明绝顶，打的就是小算盘。但问题是，这种调整根本不会改变中日关系，也不会让台湾在国际上获得更多实质性的承认。记得当年三岛由纪夫在小说中将日本比作一只灵巧的猫，面对大象的时候，知道如何轻盈地避开风险。这次日本的行动，恐怕也是在大象的鼻子底下打打转而已，根本不影响大局。
大家好，欢迎来到我们的亚洲大眼睛节目。今天我们要深入探讨一个重大的全球议题：特朗普的关税政策如何对世贸组织及全球自由贸易体系造成冲击。当特朗普宣布将对来自世界各地的进口商品征收新关税时，他不仅仅是在改变贸易规则， 更是向二战后建立的全球自由贸易体系发起了直接挑战。这一举措引发了贸易专家的警告，可能会导致全球关税上升，并对世贸组织构成威胁。特朗普的行动可能会激起其他国家的模仿，进一步削弱自由贸易的原则，影响每位消费者的生活。我们将回顾关贸总协定和世贸组织如何塑造国际贸易，并探讨特朗普如何试图推翻这些基本规则。此外，我们还会分析发展中国家面临的挑战，以及他们如何在这场贸易博弈中寻求保护自身的经济利益。大家好，欢迎来到我们的亚洲大眼睛节目。今天我们要挑战传统观念，深入探讨特朗普的关税政策如何颠覆全球自由贸易体系。当特朗普宣布征收新关税时，他不仅是在改变贸易规则，更是向二战后建立的全球自由贸易体系发起了直接挑战。这一举措引发了贸易专家的警告，可能导致全球关税上升，并对世贸组织构成巨大威胁。随着世贸组织的运作受到质疑，特朗普的单边主义行动或将引发其他国家效仿，进一步削弱自由贸易的原则，影响每位消费者的生活。我们将回顾关贸总协定的历史，分析特朗普如何试图推翻这些基本规则，并探讨发展中国家在这场贸易博弈中的挑战和应对。这场关税之战不仅是经济的较量，更是国际政治力量的对抗。未来的全球贸易格局将取决于各国的选择。特朗普的关税政策或许只是历史洪流中的一个插曲，但它所引发的思考却深刻而广泛。请大家继续收看详细内容。在第二次世界大战的废墟中，全球经济一度陷入停滞，世界各国迫切需要一种新的经济秩序来重建和推动发展。于是，1947年，关税及贸易总协定基也 TT 诞生了。它的使命是通过降低关税和其他贸易壁垒，促进国际间的自由贸易。然而，几十年后的今天，这一体系正面临严峻考验。美国前总统特朗普的关税政策成为了点燃这场危机的火星。特朗普在任期间宣布对来自世界各国的进口商品征收新关税，这标志着对二战后建立的全球自由贸易体系的直接挑战。特朗普的逻辑极其简单，美国是全球最大进口国，但始终买多于卖，这种贸易逆差必须扭转。他主张通过提高进口关税，给美国在国际贸易谈判中增加筹码，以迫使其他国家做出让步。然而，这一政策在全球范围内引发了轩然大波，许多贸易专家警告，这可能导致全球贸易体系向更高关税转变，对世界贸易组织 WTO 构成巨大威胁。世贸组织的成立是全球贸易自由化的一个里程碑。1993年，117个国家的谈判代表签署协议，成立了世贸组织，以管理关贸总协定的规则，并提供具有约束力的争端仲裁。然而，特朗普政府公开表达了对世贸组织的不满，尤其是对其仲裁机制的批评。他认为该组织未能有效遏制中国等国的出口补贴行为，并阻止了对世贸组织争端解决的法官任命，使其陷入瘫痪。特朗普政府在第一个任期内曾讨论调整关税税率，但由于技术复杂性和可能引发国际争端，最终未能实施。然而，这一切在特朗普宣布单方面设定关税时发生了改变。特朗普的政策引发了连锁反应，其他国家若效仿这一做法，将可能导致全球贸易壁垒重重，商品价格飙升。自由贸易的核心原则，消费者从最低成本的生产商处购买商品的自由，将受到威胁。我想说，世贸组织完蛋了，但现在重要的是其他成员国如何回应。来自韩理士基金会的贸易政策专家戴博拉·埃尔姆斯表示，这不仅是对世贸组织的考验，也是对整个全球贸易体系的挑战。在发展中国家方面，情况更加复杂。历史上，这些国家以高关税保护本土工业，尤其是农业，以确保粮食自给自足。中国和印度等如今已经成为全球经济大国，但由于在关贸总协定下仍享有发展中国家的地位，他们维持了较高的关税和农业补贴。特朗普的关税政策可能迫使这些国家重新审视自己的贸易策略。欧洲国家以及许多发展中国家如今面临的困境在于，他们对美国的贸易顺差对其经济增长至关重要。若对特朗普总统的关税政策予以报复，可能引发全球贸易战，从而破坏世贸组织带来的长期经济繁荣。中国和印度等发展中国家则强调，尽管他们的工业增长显著，但人口仍然不够富裕，人均收入低下，粮食自给自足依旧是优先事项。 这场关税之争不仅关乎经济，更是国际政治力量的较量。全球贸易体系的未来，取决于各国在这一关键时刻的选择，是维护自由贸易的原则，还是走向保护主义的道路，将决定未来几十年的国际经济格局。特朗普的关税政策或许只是历史洪流中的一个插曲，但它所引发的思考却深刻而广泛。未来如何在保护自身利益的同时，维持全球贸易的开放和公平，将是每一个国家面临的重大课题。欢迎大家进入六度探索的辩论环节，我们从正反两个角度对本节目进行辩论，请出我们的辩论高手楚天舒、谢琪琪。
特朗普的政策可谓是一场勇敢的赌博，他敢于挑战数十年来的贸易惯例，意图打造对美国更有利的贸易环境。正如拿破仑曾言，不敢涉险者不能成大业。特朗普意识到，美国作为全球最大进口国，这种地位应为美国带来更大的谈判筹码。他的策略是通过施加压力，迫使其他国家重新谈判，这可能会促使那些长期受益于美国巨大市场，却又限制美国出口的国家做出让步。敢于在国际舞台上重新划定规则，这可能会成为美国的一次重大胜利。
楚天舒，你这番话听起来像是吹捧一个赌徒的勇敢，但现实中，这种做法无异于在贸易的火线跳探戈。特朗普的关税政策不是拿破仑的英勇，而更像是鲁莽的堂吉诃德向风车发起冲锋。全球贸易体系是建立在多边合作和信任上的，破坏这种体系的后果将是灾难性的。历史上，贸易战只会导致两败俱伤，想想胡佛政府时期的斯姆特获利关税法案，最终只是加重了大萧条的痛苦。特朗普的做法会引发其他国家的报复性关税，打击全球经济增长。他的策略不仅让美国消费者付出更高的代价，也可能引发全球经济的倒退。
谢琪琪，我承认你的担忧是有一定道理的，但特朗普的策略并非毫无章法。实际上，美国一直以来在 WTO 中的地位并不尽如人意。许多专家指出 ，WTO 的仲裁机制在涉及中国等国家时表现不佳，这反映出组织的固有问题。特朗普此举或许能迫使 WTO 进行必要的改革，从而让全球贸易体系更加公平。当然，任何变革都有其代价，但在现有的贸易体系中，美国似乎已经忍无可忍，需要采取行动来扭转长期以来的贸易逆差局面。这不仅仅是为了眼前的利益，也是为了未来更可持续的发展。
楚天舒，你所说的改革是基于对伙伴的威慑和恐吓，而不是合作和谈判。特朗普的政策在逻辑上有着自相矛盾之处，他一方面要重塑贸易规则，另一方面却采取单边行动。若采用这样的策略，其他国家必然也会走向单边主义，这将使全球贸易一片混乱。全球贸易历史告诉我们，多边协商才是解决争端的长久之道。看看布列塔尼森林会议的成功，它依靠的是合作而非对抗。特朗普的做法不仅可能让美国失去盟友的信任，还可能让新兴市场和发展中国家联合起来，形成新的经济集团，最终将美国推向全球贸易的边缘。
谢琪琪，你说的对，合作是多边贸易的基础，但有时候为了打破僵局，需要采取更强硬的立场。特朗普的政策看似单边，但却是为了促使多边机制的重新洗牌。美国作为消费大国，自然希望得到更合理的市场准入和公平的贸易待遇。你提到布列塔尼森林体系，但不要忘记，这也是美国通过实力和谈判主导建立的。现如今，美国希望再度调整，以适应新的经济现实，这是合情合理的。过去的成功经验表明，强有力的政策调整可以带来长远的利益。
楚天舒，你对美国实力的迷信让我想起了卡里古拉的疯狂，他自以为能征服一切，但最终只留下混乱。特朗普的政策仿佛是在自我的经济堡垒里加固城墙，却忘记了全球化的浪潮已无法逆转。经济学家指出，美国的贸易逆差并非单靠关税能解决。苹果公司在国外生产，并不单单因为关税，而是因为成本和效率的全球最优组合。特朗普的政策极有可能让美国企业在全球供应链中陷入困境，抬升生产成本。 我们应当通过合作来适应变迁，而不是试图用高墙隔绝变化。全球化是无法逆转的趋势，美国与其逆流而上，不如顺势而为，借力打力。
大家好，欢迎来到我们的亚洲大眼睛节目。今天我们要揭露一件震撼的事件：曼谷警方在一场突袭中成功逮捕了15名中国公民。这些人竟然在公寓内运营在线赌博活动，他们租用了整层楼，并利用大量的电脑设备和赌博器材进行非法活动，甚至还涉及走私穿山甲等野生动物的罪行。这些嫌疑人透过非法渠道吸引了大量以人民币下注的玩家，资金流转惊人，超过200万人民币，且清一色都是中国玩家。调查显示，几乎没有泰国人参与。警方已对这些嫌疑人提出了组织赌博、非法就业和走私商品等多项指控，并将他们移送法院，面临严重的法律后果。大家好，欢迎来到我们的亚洲大眼睛节目。今天我们将揭示一起令人震惊的事件。曼谷警方在一场突袭行动中，成功逮捕了15名中国公民，他们竟然在公寓内运营一个地下赌博网络。这些嫌疑人将整层楼租用作为他们的非法赌博基地，并使用大量高科技设备进行操作，甚至还涉及到走私穿山甲等野生动物的罪行。警方的行动揭露了这个庞大的赌博网络，数以百计的玩家以人民币下注，资金流转达到惊人的200万人民币，几乎全是中国玩家。这些嫌疑人面临住重重法律指控，包括组织赌博和非法就业等，并将在48小时内被移送法院，等待他们的将是严厉的法律后果。这次突袭不仅是对犯罪分子的打击，更是对全球网络犯罪的警示。警方正在持续扩大调查，寻找是否有泰国人参与其中。这一事件再次彰显了跨国犯罪的隐蔽性和复杂性，未来的打击工作将需要更多的国际合作和社会各界的警惕。请大家继续收看详细内容。在曼谷的一次突袭行动中，警方在一栋位于繁忙的拉玛9路的公寓楼内，揭开了一场规模庞大的地下赌博活动的面纱。2月18日，曼谷 Maxen 警察局在京畿警察总署的协助下，成功逮捕了15名中国公民。这些人将整层公寓改造成一座秘密的赌博天堂。行动过程中，警方查获了大量用于非法赌博活动的设备，20多台电脑被整齐地排列在公寓的各个角落。似乎每一台都在不停地运转，散落的桌椅和10多部手机都成为了这个秘密基地的一部分。更让人惊讶的是，现场还发现了麻将桌、一定数量的现金、非法香烟，以及3具被剖解的穿山甲尸体，显示出这个团队不仅涉及赌博，还可能涉及走私和非法野生动物交易。据泰国头条新闻社报道，这个赌博网络主要面向中国玩家，操作复杂的高低赌注游戏。所有交易都通过支付宝进行，流转资金已超过200万人民币。这些玩家大多在中国，通过秘密网络接入这个由嫌疑人运营的赌博平台。警方根据游戏内容推测，几乎没有泰国人参与其中。本次被捕的15人中，14人持有旅游签证，1人持商务签证进入泰国。在初步调查后，警方已指控他们犯有组织赌博、非法就业和走私商品等罪名。所有嫌疑人将在48小时内被移送法院，并面临被移民局遣返的命令。警方还在调查是否有泰国人参与其中，或为这些来自中国的嫌疑人提供了便利和支持。目前相关线索正在被追踪，但具体细节尚未公开。警方表示，如果调查发现更多违法活动，可能会追加更多指控。这一事件让人们再次关注到跨国网络犯罪的复杂性和隐蔽性，以及在全球化背景下，如何有效打击此类犯罪的挑战。在这个信息化的时代，犯罪手段不断翻新，破获此类案件不仅需要警方的敏锐嗅觉和国际合作，也需要社会各界的警惕和协作。这个团伙的覆灭无疑对其他试图利用科技进行犯罪的组织者敲响了警钟。警方强调，将继续加大对网络犯罪的打击力度，绝不放过任何一个违法犯罪分子。若有其他涉及非法活动的线索，定将追查到底。泰国警方的果断举措也显现出国际合作在打击此类犯罪中的重要性。未来，泰国将继续加强与其他国家的情报共享和联动执法，共同维护社会的公正和秩序。此次突袭行动不仅是对犯罪分子的一个重大打击，同时也提醒着全球各地的法律执法部门， 网络犯罪的威胁无处不在，需要时刻保持高度警觉，携手打击，才能确保社会的长治久安。在这个案件背后，也隐藏着无数为此付出努力的执法者们，他们为维护法律的尊严和社会的稳定而不懈努力，值得我们给予最大的敬意与支持。
But thank you, Richard, for the introduction, and thank you to all for such a warm welcome. It's great to be back in beautiful Miami, where I've actually built a lot of great buildings with the Desert family and some others. We've had tremendous success in Miami. We have Trump Towers and Sunny Isles Beach. It's 4 beautiful buildings right on the ocean. The Trump Grande, put the little E in the end for a little, class it up a little bit. Trump Grande and the 700-acre Doral. It's a tremendous country club, and it's actually the most successful country club in the U.S., where I was just given approval to build 1,500 units, and I couldn't care less about building units. When you're president, who the hell wants to build units? I've been building units all my life. I don't want to build units, but they gave us permission to do it. But today is a tremendous honor. Become the first American president to address the Future Investment Initiative Institute. That's the first one. It's always nice. And I want to thank Mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, for being here. Thank you very much, Francis, wherever you may be. Hi, Francis. And thank you for the endorsement when I ran. I was very appreciative. Along with the mayor of Miami Beach, Stephen Miner. Stephen, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you very much. And numerous American business leaders, some of the biggest business leaders actually anywhere in the world, and many distinguished guests from the Middle East, and in particular the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, a special place with special leaders. And including FII Institute Chairman and Governor of the Public Investment Fund, which is a seriously big fund. Yasser, I see you there. Stand up, Yasser. Everyone knows Yasser. Thank you. Great guy, great person. And Finance Minister Mohammed, thank you very much. Thank you, thank you very much. Good to see you again. That's pretty good, Finance Minister of that part of the world. That's not bad. Other parts of the world, not so good, but that one is good. And many other senior government leaders. I also want to recognize the Kingdom's ambassador to the United States, Her Royal Highness Princess Rima. Ooh, very popular. Very popular. Wow, that's very nice. Sitting next to Elon. Wow, you couldn't do better than that, huh? As well as my own special envoy to the Middle East, who's really done a fantastic job, Steve Witkoff. Thank you, Steve. He's been busy. And Michael Waltz is here. Where is Michael? Michael's been so busy. They've been going back and forth and back, and a woman who is just voted the most powerful woman anywhere in the world. No, I'm going to go with Princess Rima, but she was voted the most powerful woman anywhere in the world, Susie Wiles. Thank you. Thank you. Most powerful woman. That's pretty good. We have to talk to you about that, Susie. It's pretty good. And also, we all know Jared Kushner, a very special guy. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, Jared. And Elon Musk. He's been making a little news lately, hasn't he, though? Very positive news. Stand up, Elon. He's a great guy. We did a little show last night. I heard they got very good ratings, too, by the way. We did. Hannity. Sean Hannity was fantastic, a fantastic man, a fantastic guy, and he did a show, and it was great being on the show with you last night. I come today with a simple message for business leaders from all across the nation and all around the world. If you want to build the future, push boundaries, unleash breakthroughs, transform industries, and make a fortune, because you want to make a fortune. Most of you have already made a fortune. I don't want to say that. There's no better place on earth than the current and future United States of America under a certain president named Donald J. Trump. I think that we're going to do very well. They're saying that November 5th, Election Day, 2024 will go down as one of the most important days in the history of our country. They said in 129 years, the most consequential election. I don't know if they're right about that or not, but it sounds good. I wanted to see if I could get a couple of more years tacked on, but I figured the fight wasn't really worth it. 129 is a lot. And as of January 20th, 2025, the dark days of high taxes, crushing regulations, rampant inflation, flagrant corruption, government weaponization, oh, I know about weaponization, and total incompetence will be gone forever. They'll be gone forever. Because the United States is back and open for business, and the golden age of America has officially begun. You see it happening. Since my election, America's economic engines have come roaring back to life in just a very short period of time. Think of it, from November 5th, the progress that's been made has been amazing. The NASDAQ is up nearly 10% in just a few months, and that's a lot. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 2,200 points, and Bitcoin has set multiple all-time record highs because everyone knows that I'm committed to making America the crypto capital. We want to stay at the forefront of everything, and one of them is crypto, and Miami seems to be the center of the action, come to think of it, and maybe it'll stay there. Business optimism skyrocketed 42 points. Think of that in a single month, the most in history by far. That's the biggest increase in history by not even close. The ISM index of manufacturing activity surged into positive territory for the first time in many years. Amazing. And it was just announced, this is an interesting one, I didn't realize it was that bad for so long, but it was just announced by one of the nation's most historically accurate and respected pollsters, Rasmussen, that the number of Americans who believe our country is on the right track now exceeds those who think it's heading in the wrong direction for the first time in 20 years. Can you believe that? 20 years. And this is really a seismic 27-point swing from just before the election. Nobody's ever seen anything like that one, yes, sir. I want to tell you, that's a big one. The best and most successful business leaders on earth are now racing to invest in the United States. Since November, DeMac has announced plans to invest $40 billion in the U.S., creating at least 10,000 jobs. SoftBank has announced investments of between $100 and $200 billion, creating at least 100,000 American jobs. Oracle and OpenAI and SoftBank are now collectively committing $500 billion to keep the United States on the cutting edge of artificial intelligence, and so many more. I mean, so many companies that want to come to the White House and have a little news conference all the time. I said, why don't you just announce it? But they want to come, and I'll do that. I don't mind doing that. I say anytime they want to go 10 billion or more, I'm there. 10 billion or more. But on his recent visit to the White House, the Prime Minister of Japan announced he anticipates Japanese investment in the United States of well over $1 trillion, and we're working on an Alaska pipeline already, which is the closest point to Asia. And as you know, the ANWR, which we've started, Ronald Reagan couldn't get it approved. Nobody could get it approved for so many years. Couldn't get it approved. I got it approved. Actually, I got it approved twice. I got it approved, and Biden ended it. That was a shocker, but we just got it approved again. And we're going to be, it's probably the largest deposit maybe anywhere in the world, just by itself. It's, they say, of similar size to Saudi Arabia, so we hope that's correct. But all of this is only happening because of the world-changing results of the 2024 election. We won the House. We won the Senate, the White House, and the Electoral College, and the popular vote in a landslide. We also won all 7 swing states, and all 50 states shifted in the Republican direction for the first time ever. So every state, every single state of the 50 states shifted Republican. That's never happened before. Either way, it's never happened. and 85% of counties voted for Trump. Think of that. So you have 2,600 counties versus 525. 2,600. Think of that. That's why when you look at the election map after it was all done, the certified map, the whole thing was red. 2,600 versus 500. It's a big difference. Nobody's seen anything like it, actually. So as a result of this very historic victory, investors from all over the planet once again have confidence in America's future and respect for America's leaders. And it's about time we get a little respect. The last administration was the worst and most incompetent in the history of our country, but we are moving quickly to fix every single disaster Joe Biden created and make America stronger and more prosperous than ever before. Our first and most urgent mission is to remove the criminals that Biden allowed into our country with the ridiculous and very dangerous open borders policy. They came from all over the world. They came from prisons and jails. They came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They were gang members. They were drug lords. They came from all over, and they were allowed to come into our country. And we're getting them out in record levels, just like they came in record levels. I want to thank Tom Homan and Christie, who was she's doing a fantastic job, governor of South Dakota, and Tom Homan, you know, and they are doing a fantastic job, and the results are incredible. And every country is taking them back. They're sending their criminals to us, and they're all taking them back. We had a little problem with a couple of them that ended very quickly. And because some said, we don't really want MS-13 back in our country. But I said, congratulations, you're taking them back. And they take them back. And by the way, Europe and other places ought to start also doing that. They better start looking at immigration, because it's really hurting Europe very, very badly. And they better get smart, and they better get tough before it's too late. We're also working to end the highest inflation in our country's history, all caused because they played with our energy policy and wasted money on the Green New Scam and other things such as that. And they wasted monies at never seen before levels. If Joe Biden had simply held federal spending at the pre-pandemic levels we had in 2019, right now we would have virtually no inflation. We're trying to balance the budget immediately, and because of the tariff income, which is really, it's already turned out to be amazing, actually. It's really meant more for bringing countries and companies into our country, but the numbers are rather staggering, because we're the big piggy bank that everybody wants to be, and they can play games and they can say, well, there'll be retribution and, you know, equal this and that, but they can't be equal. But we want to keep it so that we're the big piggy bank. And if we had years like we did the last 4 years, that wouldn't have lasted too long. So we're not promising it, but, you know, all of these things could happen. We hope to balance our budget. So I don't want to promise it, because if I do and we come about $10 short, the fake news media back there would say, we have breaking news. He did not make it. He did not make it. But we'll get it done very soon. It might not be this year, but it could be this year. Actually, we have a chance at getting it even this year, which people would be shocked at, because they were talking about 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now. When I took office last month, we inherited the consequences of inflation that was more than 4 times what it was when I left 4 years ago. Think of that. I left, it was at 1.4%. And the annual government spending over $1.5 trillion more than projected in 2020 alone. $1.5 trillion. But under the Trump administration, all of that is changing faster and more dramatically than anyone ever thought possible. They didn't think it was possible to do what we've done in just a very short period of time. We've accomplished more in 4 weeks than most administrations accomplish in 4 years. On my first day in office, I imposed an immediate federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, and a foreign aid freeze. I signed an order creating the Department of Government Efficiency, and put a man named Elon Musk in charge. Thank you, Elon, for doing it. Thank you very much. And he's doing a great job. I wish you could have seen him last night. It's really, he's a very committed person. He's a very serious person. And he's a very high IQ people. I like high IQ people. Not all have to be, but, it'd be nice to have some people up there that he's a seriously high IQ individual. Now, he's got his faults also, I will tell you that. But not too many of them, which is now really waging war on government waste, fraud, and abuse. And they're curbing inflation and saving taxpayers billions and billions of dollars every single day. And there's even under consideration a new concept where we give 20% of the Doge savings to American citizens and 20% goes to paying down debt, because the numbers are incredible, Elon. So many billions of dollars, billions, hundreds of billions, and we're thinking about giving 20% back to the American citizens and 20% down to pay back debt and pay down debt, which is, if you look at value, if it were a real estate balance sheet, the debt is tiny, but we still want to pay it down. Doesn't matter. We don't look at it as a piece of real estate. It's America. We're going to get it down through intelligence, hard work, and as Elon said, a word called caring. You have to care. By doing this, Americans will tell us where there's waste. They'll be reporting it themselves. They participate in the process of saving money. So many of the men and women in this room, as an example, they pay tremendous amounts of taxes. And here are just a few examples of where your money was going before I came along. These are just some of the, just taken at random. Oh, there are much worse examples than this. I was just looking at them before the speech, and I can tell you they were much worse. And there are some that are horrible, but I don't want to really say them because they're very, very embarrassing to people. Very, very embarrassing. And they're really something, but you'll be seeing it and you will be reading about it. But just some taken at random. $2 million for sex change operations in Guatemala, $20 million for Sesame Street performances in Iraq. $20 million, that's a lot of money. I know what it costs to do those things. You get a cast over for $50,000, give them a couple of bucks tip, and that's it, not 20 million. 20 million, that's Gone with the Wind on steroids. $101 million for 29 diversity, equity, and inclusion contracts at the Department of Education. Wow. And we've canceled all of these, saved all of this money. And again, this is just a small sample. This could go on. I could read them all day. $520 million for a consultant. I want to know, who is that consultant? To do ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance investments in Africa. $25 million to promote biodiversity, conservation, and illicit livelihoods by developing socially responsible behavior in Colombia. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that even means. None of this stuff, everyone's trying to figure out, what the hell does it all mean? $42 million for social and behavior changes in Uganda. 40 million's a lot of newspaper ads in Uganda. $70 million for research of evidence-based solutions for development challenges. $10 million for Mozambique medical male circumcision. What does that mean? $2.3 million for strengthening independent voices in Cambodia. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $486 million to the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening, including $22 million for inclusive, participatory political process in Moldova, and $21 million for voter turnout in India. What do we need to spend $21 million for voter turnout in India? Wow, $21 million. I guess they were trying to get somebody else elected. Wow, we ought to tell the Indian government, because when we hear that Russia spent about $2 in our country, it was a big deal, right? They took some internet ads for $2,000. This is a total breakthrough. $21 million for India elections, $29 million to strengthen the political landscape in Bangladesh, $20 million for fiscal federalism, and $19 million in addition to the $21 million for biodiversity conversion in Nepal. $1.5 million for voter confidence in Liberia. We need voter confidence too when you read this list. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $2.5 million for inclusive democracies in South Africa. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well. We don't need to give them money. And in another program, $50 million plus another $50 million for condoms for Hamas. Do you know about that? $100 million for condoms. Condoms. Does everybody know what a condom is? For Hamas. $100 million. And these are just some. I could read this list all day long. I just don't want to bore you. But these are just some, and not nearly as bad as others. And some are just, I just don't want to say them because they're too incendiary. We're also finding tremendous abuse, waste, and fraud in Social Security. Social Security is what's happening there is going to be one of the great potential scandals in history. On the program, there are over 4.7 million Social Security numbers from people from 100 years old to 109. Think of that. Now, over 100, there aren't a lot of people that make it. Hopefully, most of the people in this room will make it, but historically, you don't have thousands and thousands of people. But listen to this. 3.6 million people are on Social Security rolls from the age of 110 years old to 119. Do you think there are really that many? Those people are seriously old. But it gets worse. 3.47 million people are on Social Security from the age of 120 years old to 129 years old. 3.9 million people are on the age of Social Security from 130 years old to 139 years old. Now, the all-time record, I heard, is a woman who was 127 years old. That's the record. A woman from a certain country where they have actually people that live pretty long, actually. And she was 127 years old. That's pretty old. But we're topping her by millions of people. 3.5 million people from the age 140 to 149 years old. 1.3 million people are on Social Security from the age 150 to 159. And over 130,000 people are on Social Security over the age of 160 years old, okay? Including 1,039 people. Think of it, over 1,000 people between the ages of 220 to 229. And one person between the age of 240 years old to 249. And the record topper, there is one person on Social Security who's 360 years old, which is approximately 110 years older than our country. So what we're trying to find out, and what we will find out, is are people being paid from all of these, you know, somebody pocketing 10,000 here, 10,000 there, what's going on? So we'll find that out pretty easily because we have a lot of computer geniuses. I said to Elon, who are these people that are doing this, the Doge people? I said, who are they? Where do they come from? He said, well, number one, they love our country. Number two, they're really genius at computers. So nobody's going to fool them. When they go in, they see some bureaucrat that's scamming the country, and they try and talk about, you know, certain computer language. These people say, no, it doesn't work that way. These are people that have a natural ability as you know, brilliant computer people. It was very interesting when he told me that. I said, that's what you need today. But all of these scams have now been terminated. In addition, over the past month, we have effectively eliminated the U.S. Agency for International Development, which was funding much of this lunacy. We virtually shut down the out-of-control CFPB, escorting radical left bureaucrats out of the building and locking the doors behind them. What they were doing was so terrible. Where they were spending the money was so terrible. What we haven't looked at yet, but will be, is does the money come back to them? Because nobody can be stupid like that. And they're not stupid. They're smart, actually. And, why are they doing that? Does money come back to them? So we'll figure that out pretty easily, I think, and quickly. But I've ended all of the so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion programs across the entire federal government and private sector, and notified every single government DEI officer that their jobs have been deleted. They're all deleted. And it's interesting, even these companies that have tremendous amounts of money, a number of them just announced, Walmart, if you can believe it, they just announced that they're stopping. And, these companies are writing off like $220 million. How can you spend that much money no matter what you're doing? If you're teaching something, you're going to have an instructor, you're going to talk, you're going to give them a book. Please read the book. And then you find they spent $225 million on that. What's going on? And we were going in the wrong way, and our military was really, although I tell you, we defeated ISIS with our military in 3 weeks. General Raisin Kane he's some general, he's a real general, not a television general. And 3 weeks, ISIS, and I asked him, and I saw some of his people that were so great, the soldiers. We have the greatest military in the world, but we don't have the greatest top leadership. That's why Afghanistan was such a horrible situation and so embarrassing and so many other things. But when we want to, with proper leadership, there's nobody even close to us. We have the best equipment in the world. We make the best equipment in the world. But we have the best military. But, we never fight to win. We fight to just keep it going forever. And when we fight to win, there's nobody that can even come close to us. But I was talking to General Dan Kane, we call him Raisin Kane, and I was told it would take about 4 years to defeat ISIS, and he did it in 3 weeks. I said to him, what do you think, General? How long will it take? Sir, I think we should do it in less than 4 weeks. You're going to have time left over, and he did that. And we were told by the television generals it would take 4 years, so we did it. That's when I went to Iraq. I flew to Iraq, and late at night, the dark of night, all the windows closed, all the lights off in the plane, and Air Force One. And we flew in, and it was pretty amazing. I'll tell you, we were landing, and there were no lights in the plane. Sir, we have to turn off all lights. I said, you mean we spend $9 trillion, and we have to fly in an Air Force One with the lights off? And I went up to the pilot, said hello. And by the way, these guys are like central casting. These are the best-looking human beings. Everybody is like perfect. The most handsome people, the best-looking people you've ever seen with the flat tops and the whole thing. And I was a little concerned because the lights are off and everything's off, and even the lights in where he was were down, very dim, very, very dim, with all of the lights on the fancy dashboards of the plane, of Air Force One. We're getting a new Air Force One if they can ever finish the damn thing. We're getting 2 of them, actually. But we may have to go a different route because it's taken them a long time. We're going to get military that's going to start building. We're going to get people to start building properly again in our country because they don't build properly. This was Boeing. But we're up there, and I'm looking at these people. And again, I say they look like Tom Cruise, but better. Stronger, tougher. And I like Tom Cruise, but these are better. And they said, are we okay, Captain? Yes, sir, we're fine. But I'm looking at it, I don't see any lights, and we're landing. And I'm used to that. I like to sit with the pilots a lot and respect the pilots greatly. And we're up there, and we have the computer. I call it the computer voice, where it goes 1,900, 800. It's feet. Your feet above ground. So that means you're very low. And I'm looking out, and my eyes are pretty good, and I don't see any lights. And the computer goes out. Sounds like an intelligent individual. It goes 1,000. We're 1,000 feet up. That's very It's a 10-story building. There's a big plane. And then it goes 900, 800, 700. I said, Captain, Captain, we don't see any lights. Is everything? Yes, sir, everything's fine, sir. We'll be landing in 3 minutes. And then it goes like 600, 500. Captain, are we okay? And then he goes 400, 300, 200, and I'm saying, man, there's nothing out there. And then he goes, boom, perfect landing right on this thing. There are no lights on the runway. There's no, I don't know how the hell they do it, but I'm sure as hell glad we had somebody that knows how to fly. But they didn't want to have any lights because they didn't want the enemy. After spending, years and trillions of dollars, we have to land with Air Force One with no lights on the runway. But they were incredible people. And then I got out of the plane and I actually asked my people, I said, excuse me, I was very brave sitting in that cockpit. Am I allowed to give myself the Congressional Medal of Honor? And they said, I don't think so, sir. I said, well, I felt I was extremely brave. But now here's the problem with saying a story like that when you kid. The press will say, President Donald Trump wanted to give himself the Congressional Medal of Honor. Headlines, headlines all over, the fake news. We call it the fake news, but we're all wise to them. But it was something, and then I went down, and it was the same thing. I'm standing on the top, and I look down, and there's these handsome people. Everybody's like from a movie set. Good-looking guys. I get down the stairs, and what's your name? My name is Kane, sir. What's your first name? They call me Raisin. I say, wait a minute, your name is Raisin Kane? I love you. I've been looking for you for 5 years. You are the great. This is what I want. And there was a general next to him. There was a colonel. There was a drill sergeant, a master sergeant. They were all like people. I could make a movie right now. I'd have the best looking people ever. And they were great. And then I went in and, sir, would you like to rest before the bed? No, I don't want to rest. I don't want to rest. I've been resting on the plane, other than the last few moments, which were quite harrowing. And I said, I don't want to rest. He was thinking about Biden in advance, Biden would have gone there, he would have rested for days. And then they wouldn't have had a meeting. He'd just go home. No, I said, I don't want to rest. I don't want to rest at all. I want to go. So we went into this bunker, and we had a lot of very good, talented people. And that's when I asked him. I said, I'm hearing it's going to take a long time. No, that's not right, sir. It's not going to take a long time. We'll have it done in 4 weeks. I said, how can you say 4 weeks when in Washington they said 4 years? He said, 4 weeks, sir. We'll hit them left, we'll hit them right, we'll hit them up the center, we'll hit them underground and overground, we'll knock the hell out of them, sir. And I said, why is it that they said so long? He said, because they wouldn't let us fight. And we're very far away. They want us to fight for this, from this airport. We're very, very far away, sir. And they want us to fight here. We have many substations out, sub-airports, they call them, remote airports, where they build them in the sand. And we have many of them, and I'd use them all, sir. And I would hit them so hard from so many different directions. I said, well, what do you think? He said, you just let me know. And I called him back, and I said, go ahead and do it. Are you sure you can do this, General? I said, yes, sir. And he did it actually in 3 weeks. It was over 100% of people that are really hurting the Middle East, hurting the world. And it was done. And I'm telling you, we have the greatest military in the world, but you have to use the right people. But there's nothing like what they were able to do in that case and in other cases, wherever I gave them something, it was done incredibly well and many of the instances because it's been well reported. But we've also required, and we have a country that's a great country. It's a strong country, but it's a country that's just now gaining its respect back to the levels that it should have never lost. We were being laughed at by the entire world, but we're not being laughed at anymore. But we've also required that all federal employees must once again show up to work. It's a new phenomenon, since COVID. Show up to work in person like the rest of us. So, it doesn't work when you don't show up. And I see companies now are all going back to it. They're all going back. It's great. I watch some of the big business leaders saying we absolutely are going back. You can't work at home. They're not working. They're playing tennis, they're playing golf, or they have other jobs. But they're not working, or they're certainly not working hard. You could never build a company or a country with that. So we have a very strong policy, and if they don't show up to work, they get fired. And we're trying to make our government smaller but much stronger. And we have tremendous bureaucracy, but it's happening. A lot of people are leaving, and in some cases leaving with pretty good offers. You know, you're paid 7 or 8 months and go out, find a job. But some of these people had jobs. They were actually working for us, but they also had other jobs. And those people, in theory, they have problems. I don't know if we're going to do anything about that. So we have other things to do, but they were working other jobs instead of working for us. So they were staying home working, but they were working other jobs, getting paid a lot of money, perhaps. We offered deferred resignation buyouts to all federal workers, resulting in more than 75,000 bureaucrats voluntarily surrendering their taxpayer-funded jobs. A lot of them are leaving because they don't want to be caught having the second job. Some are leaving because they didn't want to be in government any longer. And some are leaving because they didn't want to show up to work. They wanted to work outside of an office. And that's never going to work for anybody, including companies. Companies ought to get smart. You watch these companies where they do that. They start going bad. Nobody knows what's wrong with this company. Well, try getting the people back into the office where they can be cohesive and together. In less than a single month, the Department of Government Efficiency has already saved over this is just a short period of time, $55 billion. And we're just getting started. That's nothing compared to the numbers that you're talking about, right? We're ending trillions of dollars in waste, and it'll mean much lower inflation, lower interest rates, lower payments on mortgages, credit cards, car loans, and much higher stock markets. I think the stock market's going to be great. In other words, we will rapidly grow our economy by dramatically shrinking the federal government, and we have to do it. I'm also taking fast action to end the radical left's nation-wrecking crusade against oil and natural gas. Over the past 4 years, the Biden administration cut the number of new oil leases and gas leases by 95%. They slowed new pipeline. I mean, look at Dakota Access, they wanted that one knocked out. The Keystone Pipeline, they wanted that one knocked out. They ended the Keystone. We got the Dakota Access done, but it wasn't easy after they tried to stop it. They slowed new oil and gas pipeline construction to virtually a halt. They shut down 38% of active oil and gas rigs in the United States, but they love the wind turbines. They go round and round and round, and if the wind doesn't blow, they got problems. They kill all the birds, they ruin the sight lines, they ruin the plains and the beautiful areas of our country, including the oceans, the lakes. They closed more than 50 power plants, all causing energy prices to skyrocket. You saw that happen. That's what caused inflation. Pretty easy. These policies were so destructive that despite draining nearly 40% of U.S. strategic petroleum reserve meant for emergencies, it was meant for emergencies. It wasn't meant for getting a price of gasoline down so that you can win an election. It didn't work for winning the election. Actually, there's so many people that are driving that it's a very small number. It just had a very small effect, but in the meantime, it takes it down. We'll fill it up fast, but it's at the lowest level. When we made the transition, it was at the lowest level in history ever recorded. It's the lowest level. Nobody's ever seen it that way. They put it all out because they thought they could keep gasoline prices down a little bit, just go past the election, and after that, they didn't care. And it didn't work because they didn't get elected. I got elected. But the price of gasoline still rose over 35%, and in some cases, at some periods, it was 100% and 125% during certain periods of time. Under the Trump administration, we have implemented a very different plan. You probably heard of it. It's called Drill, Baby, Drill. And we're doing it. The world runs on low-cost energy, and energy-producing nations like us have nothing to apologize for. We have more energy than any other nation in the world, and we're going to use it. And we're going to use it on AI plants. I was telling some of the people that came in that, they're very interested. Everybody's talking about AI. I hope you're right. I don't know. Who knows? But Elon, are they right? Are they right in going all? Are they all in for AI? But the problem is, to do it, just in our country, you need twice the electricity just to open up and be the top of AI. You need twice the electricity that we have right now in the entire country. If you take all of the electricity, you need more than twice. You need double what we have right now just to fuel this new industry that's growing. I was amazed when I heard that number. And they all said, how can we do this? Because, you know, in China and various other places, you can probably get it with the shake of a hand. But in our country, you can't. But now you can, because I'm declaring a national emergency in order to get fast approvals. And we're going to have, if you build a plant, you're able to build an electric generating facility right next to your plant. So you'll be making your own. You won't have to count on utilities. You won't have to count on an old grid that could fail, could get hit by something, bad things or good things. But you're not going to have to. You're not going to have to worry about grids. You're not going to have to. You'll build your plant, and you'll build your essentially you'll become a utility in a way. You'll build your own electricity. If you want to build extra and put it out and get paid for that, you're going to be able to do that. You could put it back into the grid, but you're going to be able to build with your plant a generating facility. And we're going to get you Lee Zeldin, head of the environmental the environmental group, various groups, and we've got them unified now, but we're going to get you very fast approvals, and they'll be approved so fast your head will spin, and we're going to get that whole industry started, and we're going to be the head of it. We're leading right now. We have the greatest brain power. We're leading right now, and I expect that we're going to be leading by a lot, but we're going to get you the energy very, very quickly. That would be the one thing that everybody was concerned. How do we have that much electricity when Los Angeles has blackouts and brownouts right now, and there's a lack of electricity, but we're going to get it at levels never seen before. I ended the ridiculous Green New scam, halting tens of billions of dollars of wasteful deficit spending, and I withdrew the United States from the unfair one-sided Paris Climate Accord, and I ended Joe Biden's insane electric vehicle mandate because it was just insane. I repealed the last, and by the way, if you want to buy an electric car, it's great. If you want to buy a gasoline-driven car or a hybrid, it's great. Whatever the thing happens to be. I heard hydrogen's hot. The problem is when it's not, you're in deep trouble, because when that sucker blows up, they don't find the body. So that's one that I said, you know what, let's take a pass on that one. They said it's good, but when it's bad, it's really bad. You find the bodies on trees, on the side of a tree. I said, I think we'll pass on that one, right? We're not going to want that one. But you never know. Maybe someday it'll be good, but it doesn't sound like it's off to a good start. I repealed the last administration's very destructive natural gas export ban. And last week we approved our first new liquefied natural gas export license. And we have literally hundreds of people that want to export. I recently met with the Japanese Prime Minister, Shiba, to discuss large increases in American oil and gas exports. They want it so badly. They said we went to the Biden administration, they wouldn't sell it. They wouldn't sell it. Nobody knows why. Biden didn't know why either. They asked him, I don't know. They did, oh, I didn't know that. But we're going to sell it. And the new project in Alaska is going to feed all of Asia. We're going to take care of all of Asia. We have so much oil and gas, like very few people, like very few countries have, like really actually no country has. I also met with Prime Minister Modi of India, who wants to greatly expand India's purchase of American energy. And my administration has also launched the most aggressive deregulation program of any nation in history. Under my executive order, for every one new regulation added, 10 old regulations have to be eliminated. And you know, in our first term, which was actually an incredible success, we had the greatest economy in history until COVID, and even after that, we did great. The stock market was higher. If you think of it, it was higher after the fact. After we went through that whole thing, it was higher than it was just prior to COVID coming in, which is a pretty amazing thing. But we did a great job on that, but it was a terrible thing for the world. The whole world suffered. It suffered terribly, including China, including other countries. It was a terrible period of time. But despite that, we did well. But we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And I think this time we're going to do even better. We were artificially hurt by COVID. We had to focus on that instead of focusing on, but just prior to COVID coming in, there's never been anything like what we did, what we achieved. And even after, we did very well, and especially considering what all of us had to do with COVID. Some nations were hit so badly, it's just unbelievable what happened to them. As part of our effort, I've signed executive orders to keep the United States at the forefront of artificial intelligence and to end Joe Biden's war on Bitcoin and crypto. We ended that war totally. That war is over. They were very hostile toward them until the very end, just because there's so many people on Bitcoin and crypto that just before the end, the SEC came out and they were being very nice. I was so nice to people because so many people were being indicted for no reason whatsoever. Very political group of people. That's all they did was they liked indicting people, but they were being indicted, and many of those indictments were dropped just before the election because they said, wait a minute, there's 100 million, 125 million people using this, and they didn't want to have, all these people being voted against. But by the time they did that, it was too late. We had that vote entirely, I think. I think anybody smart that believed in that, and there were a lot of people believing it, anybody that was smart voted for Trump. And they pulled the indictments, and I see people that were indicted. I said, I saved your life. I saved your life. Because if they actually thought that I was doing it, they said, why is Trump doing it? Is he doing it for political reasons? I don't do anything for political reasons. I do what's right. I want to be in the forefront of every industry. So I'll be working with the Republican Congress to pass the largest tax cuts in American history. And that includes, obviously, we have to extend the Trump tax cuts, which were, until now, the largest. We're going to dramatically cut taxes for families and for workers and for companies, including no tax on tips and hopefully no tax on Social Security and no tax on overtime. And that overtime one is a sleeper because I think a lot of people are going to be spurred on to do a lot of extra work. When they hear that, it's a lot of companies really like it and a lot of people really like it. The new Trump tax cuts will also include 100% expensing for new factory construction in the United States and anything else that you're going to buy with capital. If you buy something that is going to be good for our country, we're going to let you expense it, 1 year expense. And I did that the first time, and everybody was saying, can you go back to that? Now you still get, I guess, 40% or whatever, but it, pares down. But we're going to bring that right up to the top level. I think that had a lot to do with the success that I had during my first term. And we'll substantially cut taxes for all domestic producers of oil and gas and just about everything else that they produce. In my first term, I brought the business tax down from around 40% to 21%, which everybody said was an impossible thing to do. I cut it from 40. It actually was state and city was much higher than 40, but I got it down to 21%, and now I'm bringing it down to a goal of 15%, but only if you make your product in America. In other words, you're going to be at 21%, but if you make your product in America, you're going to go from 21 to 15. If you don't, you're going to pay 21%, which is still lower than anything. So guys like Elon are going to come and make his great cars in the United States. There are a lot of people will. A lot of people are calling. A lot of car companies are calling. They called me, three of the majors. They called and they said, we're looking all over the place. We want to be there. I'm going to be announcing tariffs on cars and semiconductors and chips and pharmaceuticals, drugs and pharmaceuticals and lumber probably and some other things over the next month or sooner. And it's going to have a big impact on America. We're bringing our businesses back. If they don't make their product in America, then they have to pay a tariff. But if they do make their product in America, they don't have to pay any tariff, which will it's all going to bring trillions of dollars into our treasury, or it's going to mean that there won't be any taxes because we want to have a fair base. If they don't have it, we don't have it. If they don't pay, if they don't charge us, we don't charge them. It's pretty simple. The Republican Party is once again the party of common sense. We're a party of common sense. We want strong borders. We don't want men playing in women's sports. We don't want to have transgender for everybody. We're the party of common sense. That's how we won the election in such a big manner. We'll no longer allow other countries to ransack and plunder our nation. That's why I've announced that we will soon begin imposing reciprocal tariffs on any country that engages in unfair and unequal trading practices. If they tariff us, as I said, we will tariff them at the exact same rate. So if a certain country, because some of these countries, even countries that I've already mentioned, are extremely aggressive with tariffs. Nobody knows that. European Union, they have a VAT tax that's devastating. It's very tough for people on the outside. Hard to sell cars, really impossible to sell them because they also have non-monetary tariffs that are very, very tough. But if you take a look at that, it's a very unfair situation. And the VAT tax is similar to the tariff. Around the world, I'm moving quickly to end wars, settle conflicts, and restore the planet to peace. I want peace, and I don't want to see everybody being killed. And you take a look at the death in the Middle East and the death that's taking place between Russia and Ukraine. It's been going on, and we're going to end it. There's no profit for anyone in having World War III, and you're not so far away from it. I'll tell you right now, you're not so far away. If we would have had this administration for another year, you would have been in World War III, and now it's not going to happen. In the Middle East, I've restored my policy of maximum pressure on Iran, designed to bring peace. And we've designated the Houthis a terrorist organization. They're, destroying shipping lanes all over the place. They're making it very hard for people to get their product delivered. They're making it very difficult, but we'll take care of that situation. And we've secured a ceasefire in Gaza, and we're bringing in the hostages, and we're bringing them home to their families. Some of them are in pretty bad shape, I have to tell you. To end the horrible war in Ukraine, I've spoken with President Putin and President Zelensky, and our teams began negotiations this week in Saudi Arabia. I want to thank Saudi Arabia for that. That was so great. Yeah. And I want to thank, in particular, we have so many of the people, Yasser, Mohammed, all of the people, but in particular, we have to thank Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for hosting these historic talks. And talks that went very, very well. Steve was there, Steve Witkoff was there, and Michael was there, Michael Waltz and others, and they really went well. It's a big step. We got to get that war over with. You have to see the people that are dying. I look at the pictures, the satellite pictures of the field. It's a level field, and it looks like a modern-day version of Gettysburg, and you know what that means. It is just carnage. It's horrible. And, it's not American soldiers. It's not even soldiers from the Middle East in the case of Ukraine, Russia, but it's people, it's young people from Russia and Ukraine mostly that are just being decimated. It's flat fields, and a bullet goes, and a bullet only stops when it hits somebody. And the level of people being killed in that battle, soldiers, young soldiers, in some cases old soldiers, because they're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers, in one case. But think of it, a modestly successful comedian, President Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that basically couldn't be won, that never had to start and never would have started if I was president, not even a chance. And it didn't start for 4 years, never would have started. But a war that he, without the U.S. and Trump, will never be able to settle. They'll never settle that war without our involvement. That's why they did such a great job this weekend. That's why Saudi Arabia did such a great job this weekend in hosting. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed. They get their money back. It's a form of a loan. Nobody knows that. I know that. I said, why isn't somebody saying, we do it the same way? And we spent much more money. We have to equalize. But while the United States gets nothing back, so they get their money back. It's a loan. We just give our money. And we had a deal based on rare earth and things, but they broke that deal. But they broke it 2 days ago. We had a deal because I said, we're spending $350 billion, and Europe gets their money back in the form of a loan, and we don't. We're just giving the money hand over fist. That's the Biden administration for you. But they're no longer dealing with the same United States as they were dealing with a few months ago. Why didn't crooked Joe Biden demand equalization, and that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us, and that there's a very big, beautiful ocean, a separation. This is, we're helping Europe. We're trying to help Europe. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money that we sent them is missing. They don't know where the money is. He said, well, we don't know where half of it is. That's great, wonderful. He refuses to have elections. It's low in the real Ukrainian polls. I mean, how can you be high with every city is being demolished? It's hard to be high. Somebody said, oh, no, his polls are good. Give me a break. Every city is being demolished. They look like a demolition site, every single one of them. And the only thing he was really good at was playing Joe Biden like a fiddle. He played him like a fiddle. That's an expression we use, Yasser, to say that he's pretty easy, pretty easy. A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. Got to move fast because that war is going in the wrong direction. In the meantime, we're successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something all admit that only Trump is going to be able to do in the Trump administration. We're going to be able to do it. I think Putin even admitted that. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably maybe he wants to keep the gravy train going. I don't know what's the problem, but he hasn't been able. He's very upset that he wasn't invited. He could have come if he wanted to, but that he wasn't invited to Saudi Arabia. But he's been working for 3 years. There's never been even meetings or phone calls to stop this war. It's a horrible thing. I figure Russia's lost 900,000 soldiers. I think that Ukraine's lost probably 700,000. And it's a terrible thing. You'll see bodies and body parts all over the field, all over. We see them very accurately through satellites. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions of people have unnecessarily died. And you can't bring a war to an end if you don't talk to both sides. You got to talk. They haven't been talking for 3 years. So we hope to see a ceasefire soon and to reestablish stability in Europe and the Middle East. Thank you very much. And as I've said before, it's my hope that my greatest legacy will be as a peacemaker and a unifier. That would be a great legacy. So in conclusion, the golden age of America is upon us, and I'm inviting everyone here today and every citizen across our land to take part in the most extraordinary period of peace, prosperity, growth, innovation, wealth creation, and expansion the world has ever seen. We're on our way. I mean, everyone's talking about us. 3 weeks. We're in there for a couple of days more than 3 weeks. And everyone's talking about it. You have to see the crowds of people outside. It's pretty amazing what's happening. We're on the verge of soaring markets, surging incomes, booming production, groundbreaking technologies, thrilling discoveries, and a quantum leap in the quality of life. Absolutely a quantum leap. One day, very soon, our country will have the greatest economy in the history of the world because we once again have a president who puts America first, and we put America first, and your country should put your country first. But in the end, we want America first, and when it's all beautiful, which it's going to be pretty soon, we want to help other countries, and you want to help other countries. But, I tell your leaders, and some of the leaders are in this room right now, you got to put your country first. Whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's something else, you got to put your country first. But we're going to have plenty left over to help others also. As long as you invest in America, build in America, and hire in America, that means that I'm fighting for you. I am fighting very hard for you. Together, we're going to make the United States of America bigger, better, bolder, richer, and greater than ever before. It's going to be stronger than ever before. We're going to be a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. We're going to stop people from these stupid, never-ending wars. We're not going to partake in them ourselves, but we'll be stronger and more powerful than anybody by far. And if it ever came to war, there is nobody that will be able to come close to us. But we don't think that's going to ever happen. So I want to thank you all very much. It's a great honor to be here. And I think somebody said they're going to ask questions. And I didn't say, gee, what are the questions like Biden does? I say, just ask. It doesn't matter. You ask a question and I give an answer. So I think, Richard, you're going to come up and you're going to give me some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Please, a round of applause for the President of the United States of America. Thank you. Mr. President, thank you for accepting to take a few questions. 20 years ago, I don't know if you will remember, we were under the same roof in Orlando and you were delivering an amazing speech in front of 3,000 sales reps, giving them the best advice to be successful. So what is the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
Well, I think it was watching my father. You know, my father was a very hard worker, and he just worked hard. And he was very smart. He had good genetics. His brother was the longest-serving professor in the history of MIT, Dr. John Trump. And my father was every bit as smart. But my father had to work. He was older, and he put his brother through school. In fact, he once said, boy, I put him through so much school. He had 3 different degrees. And they asked him to stay on at MIT. But my father was the same ilk. And I noticed that my father was a happy man. And what he did is he worked. He just worked all the time. He worked. And he loved it. And really, I think the best piece of advice I got from that is you have to love what you do. And if you love what you do, you're going to have a happy life. If you don't, I mean, I see so many people, they're in businesses that they don't want to be in. They're in businesses that, you know, they're bored in or they're not good at. They don't have a natural ability at it. There is such a thing as natural ability, whether it's sports or acting or anything else. I mean, some people have an ability for something. Try and find that ability, but you have to love what you do. If you love what you do, you're going to be, at least you have a good chance of being successful.
Mr. President, it's almost time for an early dinner. So if you are throwing a dinner party and you can invite 3 fascinating guests, living or dead, who would you bring?
Well, they're all sitting right in the front row. Yasser, are you ready? Mohammed, are you ready? Steve Witkoff, and we have the most important person, at least until the World Cup is over, is here. Johnny, stand up. He gave the United States the World Cup. Johnny, thank you very much. I didn't know you were here. That's very good. He's the king of soccer. That's not bad. And you've done a fantastic job. You know, but it's very interesting. When I was president, I got the World Cup. And I got all of the, you know, we have this 250 anniversary, so that fell in this administration. That's a big deal, 250 years. But we have all of these things happening, and I also got the Olympics. And I was called by the mayor of Los Angeles, sir, would you call up the Olympic Committee, because it was at that time President Obama will not take their phone call, and we're going to get the Olympics in Los Angeles. And by the way, they've recommitted to Los Angeles at a level that, you know, I was very worried about that. And the opposite, you know, somebody could have said, well, we're going to do it someplace else, until they have actually recommitted. They're going to make it bigger and better than ever. So I want to let you know that. But I had the Olympics. So I got the Olympics, I got the World Cup, and I said, and the 250, but that one I didn't get. But it was there. It was in this term. And I ran an election, and we did fantastic in 2016. We did much better. Millions and millions, tens of millions, but millions and millions of votes better. And bad things happened, and I didn't get that one. And I said, you know, when I originally signed the Olympics, I said, I won't be able to even be president. And I got the Olympics, because if I didn't, when I spoke with the people, the organizing committee and the people in different parts of the world, they asked me to do it because the president wouldn't do it. I was president-elect, and I gave them a talk. I couldn't get them off the phone. They were starving for love. And the bottom line, they gave us the Olympics. And I said, you know, isn't it sad? I won't be president. Then we had the election result. And now I'm president for the Olympics and for the World Cup. So I'm very happy about that, Johnny. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll be there. I promise I'll be there.
And by the way, Mr. President, backstage you have a gift from Johnny. He gave us the first ball with your name, which will be played for the World Cup.
That's great.
In America.
It's going to be great. Thank you, Johnny, very much.
I doubt that any day you will take a sabbatical year, but if you could take a sabbatical year, Mr. President, what unconventional thing would you do?
What was the word?
Sabbatical. You don't work for 1 year.
I thought you said Sabbath. It's a big difference. It's almost the opposite when you think about it, right? I think what I do is, look, what I'm doing now, is the most exciting job in the world. It's a hard job, not an easy job. It's a nasty job. It could be a lot easier with, I think that the news media has to straighten themselves out because people are getting it. They're losing tremendous popularity and they've lost their prestige and they've lost their credibility. And I think it's a very important thing, the news media, but I think they have to straighten themselves out because the people are going around them now. They have so many different things with like Elon with X, which was a big thing, and we have Truth, which has been fantastic, and we have so many other things that you don't really need traditional. But I will tell you that there is just nothing I could do to enjoy my life, whether it's that or anything else that you'd ask, because this is the ultimate. I mean, I had to make a big decision, and it was a very risky decision because if I would have lost, my life would have been a much different life. It would have been a very nasty life. They were going after me at levels that nobody's ever seen before. Not Andrew Jackson, not Abraham Lincoln. The historians say that the president that was treated the worst by far by the media and overall was Andrew Jackson. In fact, his wife died of heartbreak. They were treated really rough. And Abraham Lincoln was second, but he had a civil war. You can understand that. But nobody was treated like me, nobody. And I will tell you, you learn a lot about yourself. But there's nothing I'd rather do. I had to make a decision, do I do this? Because if I lost, it would have been very, very bad. It was dangerous, actually, very dangerous in so many different ways. And I decided to do it. And I said, I have to win, because if I don't, when I spoke to a friend of mine the other night, he said, if you lost, it would have been it was actually Sean Hannity just before we did the interview last night. He said, boy, if you would have lost, you would have had a tough life. You would have had a very tough life. So there was a certain amount of courage involved in this decision to run. And it's a great honor to win by this much, to win all 7 swing states, the popular vote. Popular vote doesn't get won that much by Republicans for whatever reason. I think that's changing because, again, we're the party of common sense and they're the party of some real bad things. And I think they'll change. I think they have to change. It would be wonderful. I'm going to be having lunch with some of the Democrats next week, and it would be wonderful if we could work together. I think working together would be great. But they have to change. You can't get elected on the programs that they want, and that's really what America wants to see. So there's nothing I'd rather do than what I'm doing right now.
When we started this conference, Mr. President, Yasser and I, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince told us, I want that to be the place where people will come to understand where to invest in terms of geographies and sector. So what is the best investment you have made in your personal growth, Mr. President?
Well, I was involved in real estate from, most of my life, and was, guys like Witkoff will tell you I was really good at it, and I was successful at it, very successful at it. I've been involved in things prior to being president, but during the last 4 years, I followed sort of the trends, and I've made a lot of money with following some of these trends. And, it's, again, it's something that you do. I really believe that some people have instinct. I think I've always had an instinct for making money. I make money. And I went into show business. I had one of the most successful shows on television. I wrote books, and they were all bestsellers. Virtually every book was a big bestseller, some really big bestsellers. And so I don't know, it's whatever I do, I just want to make it successful. It's very important to me. There are many ways to make money. You can be in many different fields. And a lot of them is being in the right country. If you're in a certain country, our country is actually getting very bad, a very dangerous place, actually. Bad things were happening. But if you're in a certain country, you have a chance to do well. And no matter how good you are, if you were born into the wrong country, you're not going to make money. Now, you can do other things. You can attain power, I guess. Maybe it's the wrong kind of power, but it's power. But being in the right country where you have the right incentives and, entrepreneurship, et cetera, and America has always been sort of at the top or one of the top, but always pretty much at the top. But it was losing that position, and I think losing it rapidly. This last administration, look, I don't want to be, I wish I could say, I wouldn't have run. If I thought Biden was doing a good job, if I thought I wouldn't have run. Because as I said, it was very dangerous to run in a lot of ways. In fact, my ear will show that when you look at it closely. My ear I had that throbbing feeling every once in a while, but it was dangerous in a lot of different ways. But he was so bad that I had no choice but to do it. If I thought he was doing a great job, I wouldn't have run, and I would be very happy. I actually wanted him to do a good job. I was saying, do this, do that. I'm telling them, do things. They should have done what I said. And, but I would have been very happy not to have run, and frankly, to have seen somebody do a good job. But our country was going to hell, and I really sort of had to run.
If you were a historical ruler, would you prefer to rule during war or peace?
Well, I want to be, again, a peacemaker, and I want to keep us out of war. But sometimes to do that, you have to have a very strong country. You have to have a very strong military. And as I said, we have a much stronger military than anyone would know. We have the best equipment. And I bought a lot of it. I rebuilt our military in the first 4 years. I rebuilt it. We gave a lot of it away to Afghanistan, to the Taliban, stupidly, but that's a very small amount relative. It was billions and billions, but it's still a very small amount relatively to what we built. But I largely rebuilt our military. Now I'm going to have to do it again because so much has been given away, so much has been treated so badly. But to keep peace, you really have to, I have a thing, strength through, and I mean it, you really have it. You have strength, and you need the strength, but it's really peace through strength, because without the strength, it's going to be very hard to have peace, because you're going to be taken over, bad things are going to happen, so you really want to have peace through strength, and that's where I've done it. Having strength, having power in that sense to protect yourself and your people is a very important thing. Hopefully you don't have to use that power. I will tell you, I was dealing with President Putin very successfully on denuclearization. We were talking about it very seriously, and then COVID came and lots of things came, and we had also talked to China about it. Now, Russia and us have the biggest nuclear by far. China is not close, but they will be close. In 3 or 4 years or 5 years, they'll be equal. But we were going to talk to China, and I spoke to President Xi about it very successfully. I think we were going to denuclearize it. We would have had to get the smaller nuclear powers, of which there are 4, 3 maybe, but 4 probably, to do something. We would have been able to do that. But I was having very strong talks with President Putin about denuclearization. And, you know, if you're president, you get presentations about what we're building, what we're having, the power of weapons, the power of many things besides weapons per se. What I saw, the power of nuclear weapons, and we can never let that happen. If that happens, the ball game will be, the world will be destroyed. The power is so enormous. You look at Hiroshima, you look at Nagasaki, multiply that times 500 times, and the world would be destroyed. So you want somebody as your president, or you want somebody as your leader that understands that. We just can't let that happen. We can't let other countries get nuclear weapons. Not only Iran. Iran is a good example, and maybe the one that people think about, but we can't let that happen. The power of weaponry today is so enormous that the world would disintegrate, so we can't let it happen.
Mr. President, if you had to describe the United States of America in just 3 words, what would they be?
In 3 words?
3 words.
Love, respect, and strength. That's a tough question. That might be my best answer, Yasser. That reminds me of high school, that one, but that may have been the toughest question, actually. Do you think Joe Biden could have done that? I don't think so. I don't think so.
We're almost at the end, Mr. President, but talking about the United States of America, what is one cultural habit in the US business that the rest of the world could learn from? What is the best practice that
Well, I think we love our families, but I think a lot of the world loves their families. You know, I was speaking to the head of Mexico because I complain constantly about people pouring in. Now our border is the strongest border we've ever had. We've gone from the worst border ever in history to the strongest border. But I was speaking to the president of Mexico, a very wonderful woman, actually, and I said, we were talking about drugs. You can't let people come through your country and come into the country. You know, I was not that nice, but they understood what I was saying. And she said something that really got me. I said, you're not a big drug taking nation? And she said, no, we are not a consumer. And I said, a consumer, what an interesting word. We're not a consumer nation. We're not a consumer of drugs. I said, what an interesting, and why is that? She said, well, we have very strong family values. I said, but we do too. We do too. We have very strong, our families are devastated by what's happening with fentanyl, and China will not be we're going to make a deal with China. They were not letting that happen anymore. And I had a deal, by the way, before I left. I had a deal with President Xi where they were going to give the maximum penalty to anybody making fentanyl and sending it into the United States. And their maximum penalty is the death penalty, and it would have stopped. But when the election turned out to be a rigged election, but that's okay. When an election turned out to be it was an election that shouldn't have happened. All the things that happened. I'll give you an example. We wouldn't have had October 7th, Israel attack. We wouldn't have had Ukraine and Russia fighting. We wouldn't have had inflation. We wouldn't have had all of these things that, happened. But in speaking with her, she said about family values, I said, well, you're not really saying anything there because we have great families too. We have great family values. She said, plus we advertise a lot. I said, ooh. You mean you advertise about how bad drugs are? Yes, we do. We spend a lot of money on advertising. And I said, unbelievable. That was such a great conversation because we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars advertising how bad drugs are so that kids don't use them, that they chew up your brain, they destroy your teeth, your skin, your everything. And I thanked her for that. I make so many calls and I never learn anything from anybody. I know everything and I never learn anything from anybody. And I spoke to this woman. As soon as she said it, she didn't have to say exactly what. I said, exactly. What a great idea. And I think we're going to have, and I saw pieces of it, we're going to go in with $100 million and then another $100 million initially. But I saw some of the ads and they are really violent. I said, you have to make them strong. Your skin practically comes off after a period of time. You lose your hearing. You lose your teeth. It is terrible. And we show this happening to people. And I think we're going to, we did very well we had blue ribbon committees headed up by the First Lady of the United States and a lot of other people that, they have no idea the viciousness of these cartels and these people. And they're smarts. They're very smart, tough people. Making a fortune, by the way, an absolute fortune. But we got it down 18%, which was a record. But 18% is not great when you think about it. I think we could get it down 50 or 55 or maybe even 60% with advertising. So she really gave me something. I was going to call her and tell her that she did, but now I don't have to call her because she's going to be seeing this right now. So to the President of Mexico, thank you very much. I appreciate it. But we're going to do a great advertising campaign saying how bad it is, how drugs are so bad for you.
My last question, Mr. President. You have mentioned briefly in your speech about the legacy. What would you like your legacy to be, if you can tell us more about it?
That I came into a country that was great, but is in trouble. And I made America great again, and I got it out of trouble, and people respect America now, and we were a country of peace, and we brought peace to the rest of the world.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.